which button to press. Have you got it? Just a gentle reminder, please. Use your mics, please. I think the quality has been a little bit lacking in some bits, particularly from me. So, please remember there are other people trying to listen in as well. Thank you.
Right, thank you everyone. Let's get the meeting underway. Welcome to the meeting of the 9th of October 2024, Oswestry Town Council here in the Guildhall. Item 1 is public participation session. So welcome to our member of the public tonight. Good to see you, and press in the corner. Would anyone like to ask a question or make any comment? Nope, thank you. Thank you very much. We're all very grateful for that. Item 2 is 2A, apologies for absence.
Apologies for absence from Councillor Mark Jones, Councillor Chadwick, Councillor Wadey, Councillor Milner, who may join us a little bit later, but he's working, he doesn't finish his shift till gone 7:30, and Councillor Stackhouse.
Move we note the apologies. All in favour? Thank you. 2B, disclosure of councillors' interests of any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I'll look round from my left. Anyone with anything to raise? Nope. Thank you very much. Item 3, to seek approval of the attached minutes from the meeting of Council 11th of September 2024. Councillor Owen.
Can I move to amend item 74, paragraph 3 of the last meeting, just to remove the word with? Hang on, I'll bring up what I was talking about. It was something I was stating. I didn't say along with pedestrian and vehicle highways. It was the plants along the highways, and for clarification.
Okay, thank you. Do I take a vote on the amendment? Or?
Yeah, I think everybody should be happy, but you should accept it.
I'll second that then. All in favour of making that amendment correction? Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So can you sign it? Please sign it. I think this is procedurally correct.
Any other amendments to? No, thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, the standing committee that met, standing committees, sorry. The planning committee on the 7th of August 2024. Councillor Upton.
Move we adopt.
Thank you. I'll second. All in favour? Thank you very much. Any against? And one abstention. Thank you. The subcommittees and working groups. A is the climate... Sorry, we're on item 5 now. For clarity, item 5A, Climate Change Partnership Panel that met on the 9th of September 2024. Move we adopt or note? Is it note or adopt?
Note.
Move we note. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. And 5B, the Youth Services Partnership Panel. But to note that the panel was not quorate and therefore the meeting was not held. I'll move we note that then. All in favour? Thank you. Item 6, to answer any question in accordance with standing orders upon which formal notice has been given.
No questions.
No questions tonight. Thank you. Shropshire Council updates. I have no update to give. We also have Councillor Kerr and Councillor Price present. Anyone wish to make an update? Councillor Kerr?
Yes, I think it would be remiss not to talk about the financial situation that Shropshire Council finds itself in. So there's a report going to Cabinet next week which identifies that all bar one of the departments are overspending or projected to overspend in the current year, which would leave the council at the end of this year on a neutral trajectory, i.e. not taking a pessimistic view or an optimistic view, just on the way we are heading, with reserves of exactly 1.5 million. Well, when you consider that's probably a lower level of reserves than this town council has, given the size of expenditure of Shropshire Council, that's a dreadful situation for the Shropshire Council to be into. I'm on a budget working group which is attempting to advise the leadership on how to how to get itself out of the hole that it has dug itself into. But it is very grim stuff, and there's no easy answers to it, and we'll probably discuss some of that tonight. Last council meeting was, we had a very good presentation, I thought, from somebody who was concerned about the charges for the green waste bins, made some very eloquent points about the research that she had done. She came from Pantley's petitioner around the country to identify that councils who actually charged less were able to gain more money because of the economies of scale. But there was no going back on that, and as we know since then, we found there's difficulties with the stickers which don't stick on the wheel bin, so it seems that that is already showing a reduction over the savings they're projected to make, because it's not going to come until later. So it's a gloomy situation from Shropshire Council, there's no getting away from that. I think we had the information before us that they were seeking our help regarding transfer of assets. It's really disappointing to me that seems to have been terminated. The proposal that we would increase our council tax and pass the money over to them, in my view, was never a goer, because I think the government would have capped us if we tried to do that, and I think we'd have a hard job explaining to our residents why we would be charging them 10% extra and then passing it to the Shropshire Council. So I think on both measures that was probably doomed to failure. I don't know what they're going to come up with next. I do know there's a massive hole, and we're going to have to continue to work and try to assist as best I can to find a solution to this. But it's a pretty dreadful legacy to lead to the next council, which will start in May. The better news, if you live in Shrewsbury, I suppose, is that they want to go ahead with the reprovisioning of the leisure centre, the Sundorn Leisure Centre in Shrewsbury, to include a multi-lane swimming pool. I think in normal years we'd celebrate that, but at the moment, given so much budget constraints, it is a bit incongruous that they can find the capital for that when they're having to sell the car parks to find the capital to make people redundant. But that's the situation they're in.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Price.
It's really nice that Councillor Kerr remind us how powerful and how good he is in Shropshire. But can we remind ourselves that all the councils in the country are in the same boat?
Thank you, Councillor Price. Move on to item 8 then, notices of motion. The first is 8A, notice of motion in the name of Councillor Moore. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It really is, the motion is just to open the discussion, really. I think we're all aware that meetings have obviously been running longer as we've got longer agendas, and obviously with fewer meetings to get through them, that does mean later meetings. So I wanted to take the opportunity to field it to the council and maybe a discussion to find alternative ways of having meetings, additional meetings, or even reverting back to the old system, whatever it is that people are thinking that they'd like to do. It's a good opportunity to have this conversation, because personally I think not only is it a case that the meetings are running late and making, you know, some of us obviously get home late. Mr. Mayor, I know you were late to pick your child up, weren't you, last meeting, because you realised that you got a phone call. It is something that does affect us all, and I also think that it's something that's not just as affects us with getting home, but I think it affects especially the end of business towards, especially in private sessions, things like that, towards the end of the meetings. I feel like people are really clock watching and looking to get out of here kind of quick. I do hear councillors sort of huffing and like, oh God, I've got to go through, you know, it is an awful strain on people's time, and I think we need to be respectful of that and do the best job we can. So with those points in mind, I thought we'd just at least have a discussion.
Thank you very much. First of all, does the motion have a seconder? Thank you. Okay, the first person with the hand up was Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've obviously joined the council a year ago, so I've only known the current system. Can't really compare it to a previous experience. However, I do feel that some agenda items, as Councillor Moore said, are sort of rushed through due to time constraints, not allowing for discussion, scrutiny, and inevitably lead to lacks of clarity for officers, for members, and for the public in general. We do have a sort of, we're here primarily to represent local residents, work to develop better service and develop local change. That's in our code of conduct. This duty is important, and I feel that self-inflicted time restraints, trying to force an entire working agenda through 2 hours once a month, does hamper our ability to perform this role effectively. If you look around Shropshire, every other town council, barring Craven Arms and Bishop's Castle, use a committee system. I'd like to ask if Councillor Moore would be willing to amend his motion to refer this whole issue to the Audit, Procurement and Performance Panel to look into, to properly go through it, come up with a report and bring it back to a future council meeting to consider it with a full proposal.
Okay, thank you. Does the amendment have a seconder? Sorry.
Does Jay accept it?
Oh, does Jay accept the amendment? Sorry, Councillor Moore. Would you like to accept Councillor Owen's amendment to refer the issue to the audit?
I don't have an issue with the amendment. I was kind of hoping to have a bit of a discussion before. For me, it's not about what I want. I think it's important that all councillors having a say on what it is that they'd prefer, and also I think it's really important that we get the officers' view on and this is something I was very specific about in my initial motion, that you know we are complaining like, oh well, you know, we'd have to come here more than once a month or something. You know, these folks are here every single day having to deal with this stuff. So you know, I think that's the discussion I want to have, and as a council decide, do we think having the system as it is the best way to forward or not? If you want to have that discussion as part of the audit and procurement panel, then we can do that. I'm happy to do that. It's not me coming forward and saying I want it like this, so I want everything changed. It's me saying I'm not sure it's working exactly as well as it could in the way that it is. Let's talk about how we can improve it. So yeah, if councillors want to go to the audit panel, then we'll go that way. Otherwise, let's have the discussion now.
So would you accept the amendment?
Yeah, I'd accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's the way that I'd like to have a discussion, you know, see what other
It's
councillors
open for discussion
yeah,
this
that's
evening.
it. Yeah, that's it. So, you know, I'll accept that if that's the way councillors want to go.
Okay.
It's like I say, it's not me driving this. I'm trying to just bring it to discussion.
Okay, thank you. So the amendment now, so the motion includes that the issue is also referred to the audit and procurement panel for a discussion and onward report. But I had Councillor Rose waiting to speak.
I've sort of, you know, don't really mind which way it is. I want it to be the best way. That the reason that we moved to this system was because with the old system, all the committees, and the thing that I didn't like about it was they were on a 6-week rota, but they weren't even every 6 weeks. There were some gaps for various reasons. So if, for example, we had an amenities meeting today, and then the next week we wanted to put a motion to amenities or business came up, that would wait a minimum of 6 weeks before you could put it forward. So the thing I like about this system is that as soon as you want to put a motion or any business, anything, it comes to the next available meeting. So it should only be with 2 or 3 weeks. So that's the bit I liked about it. I hated the fact that something like amenities, you wait for possibly 2 months, and then also the minutes aren't agreed upon for that length of time as well. So it just sort of, it's very easy to get lost in business. I do know that other councils, as James said, have committee systems, but a lot of those councils don't have all councillors on all committees. They might have a planning committee and they just have half a dozen councillors who are interested in, and some of them have markets, and it's the people who are most interested in that, so they still have to come back to council. They don't all run it that way, but that's how quite a few of them run it. So it's not the same as us. We were, all of us, all the time in every committee. It's just that we had to wait for certain business. So I think the main problem is the number of meetings. We actually have a lot more meetings than we had pre-COVID, was the last time we had a proper committee system, because we've created a lot more subgroups which councillors work on, and also partnership panels. So all in all, there are a lot more meetings. So it's nothing to do with trying to have less meetings or people not wanting to attend meetings. I think I'm a member of pretty well every group, so there are a massive number of more meetings than there used to be. And we do have planning every month as well, so we have 2 meetings a month, council and then planning. So it was supposed to be so that the public knew that the second Wednesday of every month we had a meeting and it was set, and it was easier for them to come to and participate. But I personally would be quite happy to have more meetings. But I feel I just want to say that's why I was, for changing it really, not to have less meetings, but to have them more sensible, really.
Thank you. And Councillor Kerr was next, sorry.
Yeah, it's always good to review. I mean, so to look at how we're organising that, whether we should change it, that's not a problem at all. As Councillor Rose has said, we actually have more meetings now because we've introduced partnership panels. I mean, we also introduced a time of 9 o'clock. It wasn't there previously, so we didn't know whether meetings went over 9 o'clock because we never recorded them. We can review that. My fundamental thing, I'm going to move an amendment here, though, is that we should not be having this discussion. We are 6 months away from the end of this council. We cannot change this till the next council. None of us might be on the next council, so this is entirely a matter, in my view, for the next council. They will then be elected to be here for 4 years, and they will decide on whatever structure is appropriate, and good luck to them, to be perfectly honest. And I'm sure they'll take cognizance of all the points you've raised, Jay, and all the other points, and look at best practice around and come to their own view. But there is no point, a dying council in its last 6 months, trying to direct a new council where no members may be, it may be completely new. It's entirely in the hands of the electorate. So my amendment is that this matter is deferred to consideration by the new council after the May election.
Thank you. Would the original mover like to accept that amendment? Councillor Moore?
No, I think that, I think we do this quite a bit, and we've done this in the last kind of couple of terms where we're 6 or 8 months away from the election, and it's like we've kind of decided, oh, well, this council's already over, so it doesn't matter what we do for the next 8 months. And I just don't subscribe to that point of view. I think that it's just as important what we do for the next 8 months as we did for the first 3 years of this term. If from speaking to the clerk, he's said to me that any changes that we agreed probably wouldn't be able to be implemented until maybe January, but that still gives us 5 months of a more efficient system if we feel like there is a more efficient system to be found. If there's not, then there's not, and that's okay. But I still think that it's worth the discussion, because we want to be the most effective councillor we can, council we can be for the entirety of our term, not just for the 3.5, sort of 3/4 of it before the election term kicks up. And that's So no, I don't accept that.
Thank you. Does the amendment have a seconder then? Are you seconding the amendment, Councillor Maguire? Yeah. Can I just ask you to hold one moment, because Councillor Upton has been waiting to speak, but you're seconding the Councillor Kerr's amendment. Okay, thank you. So that now becomes the matter under debate. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we originally put through this proposal, there was a lot of talk of trialling it, and I think it's fair to say that we have trialled it and we've learned a few things from it. We've learned that whereas there are some aspects of it that work quite well, such as not having many meetings and letting the public know when these meetings are, I think we've also seen some snags along the way of the fact that they overrun a lot as well. If there needs to be if there are any implications in place whether we can implement this before the next council, could a compromise not be that we put this to the audit panel to look into whether or not we could at least have this until the end of the council, and then the next council redesigns this? It can either be a committee system or perhaps just hold a couple of extra full council meetings a month, just to cut it down a bit.
Thank you very much. Councillor Maguire, you wish to speak?
Yeah, obviously I was just seconding that. And my reasons for seconding that, as you all know, I was against this proposal originally when it was brought to us to change it to the current system. But I do agree with Councillor Kerr that we're so close to an election now, we don't know what situation the next candidates are in, whether when they get elected, whether they could attend as many meetings. I mean, we all know around here we can, because we've adapted to that, but we're not sure what the next council is going to look like. So I think it should wait for them to bring it forward if they want to change it, or the council wants to change it according to the new council.
Thank you. Okay, got a few waiting. I did see Councillor Davis's hand before Councillor Owen a few minutes ago, if that's okay, Councillor. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, just quickly, I support Councillor Kerr on this. I don't mind which way we go. this is busy, but I think we must remember that the last meeting had a lot of the month in it that we were down for August, the month we were off. So a lot of that was carried forward. When you look at tonight, this is not overly heavy to go through. And as for the 9 o'clock, I mean, the simplest thing I would say is, why don't we have a 10 o'clock cut off on it? You know, we're here, what's 3 hours? 3 hours. If we need it, we need it. We're here, let's just sort it. But my other point would be that we let whatever committee or however you want to do it, I think Aaron and his team need to have a chat themselves to see what's best for them, because they have got a massive workload. And I think they really need to take on board, either us or the new council, what the clerk recommends, because we've got to make it a little bit smooth and a little bit easier for them guys, not just us saying we either want to be at two meetings a month or one meeting or whatever. So why don't we just extend the time period? We can put that in the standing orders or whatever we need to do. So if we run on a little bit, we're not all twitching at 9 o'clock. Even if it went to 9:30, it gives you that little bit more time to sort it, and then let it run for the new council. That's just my idea.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry. Right, but I had Councillor Owen was waiting as well. Would you like to let others speak? Is that okay? Councillor Price, did you have your hand up a moment ago? Right, I'll come to you next then. Yeah.
Right from the start, I was against this. We regularly met once a week, August off. And there were many nights that we actually stayed here to 9 o'clock. So this isn't a first here. So I can't understand that argument. But how long has this been trialled now? How many months? Years. So why now? Why are we going to change it now? I'm completely backing Duncan here, because this could have been brought to the table before. I wanted it brought to the table, but what is the point? And now it's just a little bit late. I am backing Duncan on this. Leave it for a new council. Let them decide.
Thank you. So Councillor Coburn, you've been waiting to come in. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure whether the motion to defer is a motion to defer making a decision, which I would support, or deferring with the audit and procurement panel discussing it. To me, it seems that, for the reasons stated, it is too late to make a decision that then may be changed again 2 months later, 3 months later by the new council. But I think it's a very good time for us to discuss it, to get the viewpoints of officers and council. And then, yes, we don't know who's going to be on the new council, but even if none of us are on there, I'm sure they would still benefit from the insight of people who've been on the council for 4 years. So if they have the information ready before them when they come in to say, we've tried this, this is what we think works, this is what we don't think doesn't work, then I think that can only help them when they take office.
Thank you. The order I've got written down is Councillor Curt and Councillor Rose, before coming back to Councillor Owen. Hang on a minute. No, that doesn't make sense, does it? You're not the mover of the motion. You're moving the amendment again? Sorry. Okay then, Councillor.
I mean, I think in terms of time scale, if we're putting it to a procurement panel, that's got to report back. So I think realistically, there's nothing that can be done in terms of implementation until the new council. If you tried in, say, January, February to change to a committee system, some of those committees probably wouldn't meet until the new council was established as well. So I think, you know, whatever, anyway we go forward on this, when the original proposal to change, it came to the council, I recall, in September. So we had plenty of time to set it up from May, and if we're going to change it again, we'd need that sort of 6-month lead-in time. In terms of whether we go ahead with a review, I'm just mindful of the work on officers. I've sort of tried to explain how desperate the situation at Shropshire Council is. I have no doubt there will be lots of calls from Shropshire Council to Aaron to try to offload services and to offload costs. I think we would be very foolish to tie up Aaron and our officers in a comprehensive review on how we work, which if we're going to do it, needs to be done properly. You need to research what happens elsewhere. And I just think a new council might want to do that research itself, because it might well say, well, that was the old council. I can't we go to the electorate who have rejected the old council, they've accepted us, and they'll want to do that research on their own terms, in their own way. And I'm all for that, but I think it's the matter for them. So the motion is, as amended, is to defer any consideration by officers of this matter until the new council is formed. By all means, we can record here our views, and I'm happy to accept the very sensible amendment, I think, from Councillor Davis, that we actually changed the time in standing orders to 9:30 rather than 9 o'clock, because I think some of this issue we've caused ourselves by putting a 2-hour time limit on it. I was there for, I think, 6.5 hours at Shropshire Council. I wish they had a 3-hour time limit. It would have been a lot more easier, but I do think realistically we're only elected to come to a one decision-making meeting a month. We can make it a 3-hour meeting rather than a 2-hour meeting, so I'd go, 2.5-hour meeting. So I'd happy to include that as part of the amendment, that we change the time to 9:30.
Okay, so we're now discussing deferring the report until the new council can make a decision for itself, but lengthening our standard meeting time from 7 till 9:30 when we meet. Councillor Rose has been waiting also, and then I'll come to Councillor Owen.
Very briefly, when I was mayor, I did talk to Aaron about the possibility of having two full councils a week, because that still deals with the issue of, you're not having to wait 2 months for your markets to come up, that kind of thing. And we have planning. Why the planning seems to be a week after council rather than spreading them out fortnightly and having a full council meeting, and anything that needed to be, if it's overrunning, we could put the less important items onto that second council. And I know that Aaron wasn't keen on that because it meant making another agenda, but this is just part of the discussion. I thought that was, as we're having 2 meetings a month, why do we not have council and planning like we used to? We used to tag planning onto a normal council meeting anyway when we needed it. So that was just, another thing.
Thank you.
But we were just passing our info to the next council potentially.
Councillor Owen.
Thank you. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack there. I feel the argument that you'll just have to delay any decision that might overrun the council's term has to be moved on to the next council. If you apply that same logic to any other decision we make tonight, it's just because we're making a decision to look through something now doesn't mean the next council has to completely disregard what it's saying. We can still have that discussion now. So it's just not an argument that it should be the new council, because going to audit and bringing a report back, you can send the report back to audit in January, and then it will have to go to the next council anyway. It's a matter of you shouldn't be cutting off any discussion just because you've got a time limit of 6-7 months from now. The argument that officers are there's a lot on at the moment, we all know that. I feel like, again, that's a self-inflicted problem. Like, if we're just going to keep on adding more and more projects, there's 10 different motions a meeting, adding more and more projects, are we then going to say, right, we can't add any more motions between now and the next council just to allow officers to have more time? If the issue is that there's not enough, officers are having to make our decisions for us because we've delegated that power to them, having more say through a committee system might alleviate that stress on them, because they have more targets to reach, and it gives them that chance to basically come back to us to just sort of check that that's what we want, rather than having to wait a month. The committee system, as Councillor Rose said, having 2 council meetings, that is effectively, you could have a finance and general purposes committee 2 weeks after a meeting, which could accept anything that overruns from a full council meeting, and they can make a committee can make the decision on behalf of full council. Basically, what I agreed with Councillor Coburn, it's a matter of having the discussion now is just as relevant as having a discussion in 7 months' time. We will get more voices now. If all of us are still elected in 7 months' time, we've just saved ourselves 7 months of having to deliberate this decision. you can have as many audit panels as you want. Like, you could have one every 3 days if you particularly wanted to. I generally advise don't do that, but it's a matter of, it's up to us to decide how many panels are had between now and January, or we're setting the time scale. That's our decision. And therefore, I feel that the amended motion from Councillor Moore is sufficient to allow the discussions to be had and to take on board what's been said tonight in the audit panel.
Okay, thank you. I'll return to Councillor Moore, and then we'll move to the vote on the amendment.
Thank you. So the one part of the discussion that's to me is still the most important part of it is what I put in the motion at the start, that we haven't heard from the officers. So we've had 25 minutes of discussion here with councillors talking about how, you know, it's X, Y and Z for the officers, and it means this for the officers, and it means that. We haven't let the officers speak. You know, so we still don't know whether or not this system is a better system for them. I want to know from our clerk how he finds leading the team under this current system, and if he feels that there are areas where he's either had the team feedback to him or has noticed things which could be improved on, that should be fed back to us as councillors so we can make an informed decision. We're not making informed decisions at the moment. We're just throwing around our opinions and making decisions based on a complete lack of information, because we still haven't heard from the people who are here every single day.
I just worry that it would be preemptive to ask for officer opinion if we're then going to ask for a report from officer. You know, it's what are we asking Aaron to actually do here, because he might not have, you know, he might not be aware of it. But I mean, you're free to speak, Aaron, but I mean,
If we proceed to the vote, I think it's unfair to put the officer under any pressure.
No,
No, sorry, I'm moving.
point of order is I don't know.
is there a seconder for Councillor Kerr's motion to move to the vote? Councillor Maguire? Thank you. Okay, so the matter under for decision is an amendment to Councillor Moore's motion that this decision is deferred until the new council is in position, but that we extend meetings by half an hour to 9:30 to allow for more fuller discussions. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All those against?
1, 2, 3,
4.
4. So I am so sorry, I didn't have my glasses on. 4.
And abstentions? 1 abstention. 2 abstentions. So
That becomes a substantive.
that now becomes the substantive motion. I don't think we need to prolong the conversation much more. I think everyone's had a really good say. So the motion is now that the discussion to change the way the council does business from the current situation to investigate ways of changing that is now deferred and is a decision for the new council that will be elected in May. But that we, in the meantime, extend meetings to 9:30 when the council meets in order to allow for the business to be covered. Do I need that motion to be proposed and seconded again? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I have to be very careful on this, given the feelings around the table, and I've got to be careful not to influence the decision on whether to. My opinions are based on the detail of a review, not whether to undertake a review. That is purely your decision. In terms of changing standing orders, they would have to come back to you for you to agree that. So what you're recommending is the 3 hours. At the next meeting, I'll have to bring standing orders for you to approve. Okay. So that's just the way it's done with anything. So that's
Okay. So with that on the table, all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All against? 4. And abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay, so that is carried.
so. Just to be clear, the status quo.
Yeah, nothing will change at the moment. but standing orders will be on the next agenda to make the decision on extending the time of meetings. Okay, item 8B, notice of motion in the name of Councillor Maguire.
Hi, yeah. I presume we've all had time to read the motion. I've put this motion forward after being contacted by a number of residents in concerns with this one particular alleyway. All the other alleyways in our town centre now, they all look pretty nice now. And the council has been part of that project to make those alleyways safe, well lit up, well painted and well maintained. But this is one of the last, well, I believe to be one of the last alleyways left where residents have come to me with concerns of safety, the look and feel of that alleyway, and they actually avoid that alleyway as a result of it. I've been down there myself. I have taken some photos of it, and there's graffiti all over it. It's very unkept, and it does look quite scary to go down, especially if you're an older person or a vulnerable person. So my motion really is for the clerk to speak to the two shops involved, because it's unclear on actually who owns it. I've approached Shropshire Council. Shropshire Council say that they don't own it. I know the BID have been doing some work on it, and they can't actually do anything on it because it's one or the others. So I'm asking that the clerk approach the two properties and go forward with our proposals on making it safe, doing the necessary work to make it so, with possible CCTV down there as well, to make it as inviting as the other alleyways that are within our town centre.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Councillor Owen. Oh, sorry, yeah. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Kerr? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you were seconding. Okay. If you'd like to, yes.
Yeah, I mean, as a local councillor, both from Town Council and from Shropshire Council, thank Les for bringing this motion forward. It is, as we improve other elements of the town, I think certain black spots stand out, and this is one of the real problem areas. And funnily enough, we had the Home Office send, would you believe, an undercover policeman around the town to undercover detective-y sort of guy, I understand he was, to look at areas where he thought the town was threatening and areas where he didn't feel safe, and this was one of the passageways that he identified. So I think we've heard it from the people who are most in the know. So it's been a problematic. I know a bit have been trying to make progress with it. I think they made progress on one owner, actually, on one side, but not so much in the other. But the idea, and I think it's well encapsulated in this motion, is that we don't expose the council to risk of liability by ripping up the pavement and then for incurring liability if somebody falls over. We constrain ourselves to improving the lighting and painting the walls, which will have a huge cosmetic impact, but has minimal liabilities or risk of claims for the council in actually undertaking that improvement. And I just thank Councillor Maguire for putting it forward and urge everybody to back it. It's the sort of thing the Town Council should be doing to improve life in our town centre.
Thank you. Councillor Owen.
Thank you. So I don't disagree. This area does need some TLC, basically. I do feel that not limiting it to a budget is probably quite financially irresponsible. Just saying spend whatever the officers come back with without a budget. I'm not saying I don't trust Aaron, but he might want his own office there. So there are many questions I think need answering before agreeing to a project such as this, and to make make a formal decision on whether we go ahead with it, rather than just granting it at this point, which this motion seems to do. As you've already alluded to, it's a matter of, if it is entirely private land, can we just do what we want to put a light on it? Would the property owners agree to at least take on some of the expense to help clean it up? What's the total cost of this project? We need these things to come back to council, and I'd want these answers before signing off anything to decide. I'm happy for this to go ahead. I just want it to come back to council to start with. And I also feel that, again, this is another project we're adding on top of what we've already got, and again, if we want to start deferring things to the next council, let's start here.
Okay, thanks very much. I've got Councillor Rose and then Councillor Upton. Should I just say? Yeah, okay, Councillor Rose. Sorry.
Yeah, what James says is very sensible. I think we do have to have some idea of costings before we go ahead with this, and I imagine we're doing something quite basic, but as you said there, one of the owners has been identified. As you go, I can't remember which shop it is now, but as you go down from the car park, the one on the left has 2 gutters that are completely missing. So I'm just wondering if the clerk knows of any way that, if Shropshire Council say they don't own it, if there's any way of getting them to fix that type of thing. Because at the moment, water just pours straight out of the top of the gutter with the pipes missing and just pours down. So, you know, we don't really want to be painting it and then have rainwater falling out of the gutters. There must be something that should, you know, dilapidate, not allow them to let it get to such a dilapidated state and then just empty out on a public footway. So I'm just wondering if that could be looked at, or if you know of any way we could do something about that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Upton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, I found an old copy of the Advertiser from 1989, and within it was discussing the plans for this town council. Not the one, I thought there was going to be a fight then. The town council had finally, after months of deliberation, found out the owners and finally got the go-ahead to redo that passageway into what it looks like at the moment. Obviously a more tidier version than what it is now. So I would happily second Councillor Owen's movement that we do indeed go through all the legal checks before signing off on it straight away, especially given that the next council might not want to go ahead with this altogether, especially if we're talking about deferments.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Price?
Sorry. Yeah, I've got James. I think it's usual in most councils to do due diligence on any project. So I should happily sort of say I think they'd probably do it. My thing you were saying, Ollie, about the guttering on the buildings, it's probably you contact the people who are actually renting the building, and they will get in contact with the owners of the building. Do it that way. Be a bit quicker.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, the way of doing it would seem sensible if these matters were looked into initially by the clerk. Would Councillor Maguire be willing to accept that suggestion into the motion, that it comes back initially from the clerk as to how this might be achieved, if that's okay with Aaron? Don't know if you want to word that better than I just did.
No, it's fine. I think if that's okay.
Yeah.
Just in terms of finding a solution, obviously the BID have tried and Shropshire Council have tried, so I'm not sure what additionality I can bring to it, but we can try. I think if there are any improvements needed, then we'll have to identify them, cost them out, and bring it back, because I just don't know. It might be beyond the budget that's available. May also need a little bit of legal advice in terms of, or some legal agreements, because you'll be fixing things to people's walls and what have you. So there's a way around that. It's not complicated, but that's doable. But as I understand it, I think there's one party not willing to engage at all. So, you know, I'm not going to say I'm happy to try, but please just want to manage your expectations.
Okay. Councillor Coburn, was your hand raised there? It was. Okay, thank you. So with that in mind, sorry, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I do think to Councillor Rose's point about the guttering and stuff is a really important and valid one that she's raising, because we can go and spend, we've obviously got all of the complications that come around doing any works there whatsoever, and then any of the works that we do undertake could instantly just fall foul to poor drainage and end up washing a bunch of the new paint away, and then we've just wasted more money on the latest eyesore. And I also, have to kind of think back to our list, our priorities list that we're working through for things that this council during this term is aiming to do. That list's very long still. There's an awful lot on there to do, and there's only 7 months left, as everybody keeps reminding us all. Do we really think that sending the clerk off on what I think, he's politely trying not to say is a wild goose chase is the best use of their time? It's, we've been like BID have tried. BID are fantastic. We know that they are. They work incredibly hard. They've got great connections. If they can't find out who's going to do it in a short, in all the time that they've had, Shropshire Council can't figure it out. They can't get, one party has said we're not engaging. We've got a list of things, as long as our arm to get through. Only 7 months remaining. Is this really the best use?
People are putting a lot of words in your mouth tonight, Aaron.
Well, at least, I do try and let him speak at least,
Okay. Councillor Davis, go on.
Yeah, just a quick one. I mean, if it's under ownership by two parties, is it a legal thoroughfare? And the other issue is if there is water running and we have frost and you have ice and somebody slips, is a health and safety issue down there?
Well, I think that's why the footpath is being left out of this suggestion completely, so that we wouldn't incur any liability there. But we have a motion that has been slightly tweaked to allow the clerk to bring back a report on the likely implications and possibilities and pitfalls, etc. So, all in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All against? 2. Any abstentions out there? No. Okay, so that one is passed.
I'll add it to the list of projects.
Yeah. That's all we can ask you to do. Okay, the next is 8C, notice of motion in the name of Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, come to the point about the work, as we seem to be very concerned about the workload implications. So the workload implications of this are write a letter and administer some money to the food bank, who will then administer the scheme. But if we go back to what it's all about, we know that the Labour government, without any mention of this in its manifesto, has dramatically acted to cut fuel winter payments. And I know some people you will probably think don't need fuel winter payments, but many people do need those fuel winter payments, and it's affected everybody. It hasn't been a selective cut just from those who perhaps could afford it. It's been a cut from everybody who's not in receipt of pension credit. And in Oswestry, that will be hundreds, if not thousands of people. And many of those people are already struggling to heat their homes, even with the fuel winter payments. So this is a serious issue which will have dramatic consequences for people that we represent in our town. So the first thing is that we write to it's not too late that we write and make our views known to the Chancellor. And I'm pleased to see that Shropshire Council did this, and there were motions from both the Conservative group and the Liberal Democrat group as it happened, and all the opposition supported those. So I hope we can have some consensus around the table on this, that we object to this act of to deprive people of the ability to be able to heat their homes. But I think we need to go further. It's all very well, it's easy just to decry things. We need to think about what we can do locally. So I've had a discussion with the Oswestry and Borders Food Bank, and they could run a scheme specifically aimed at helping those who are vulnerable and would be affected. So they form the elderly people who would be affected by this. They are expert, the Oswestry Food Bank, at determining eligibility. I don't think we need to worry ourselves about that. They will know who should have this money. They can assess their eligibility in their normal way that they do for other schemes. Other agencies can then make referrals into the food bank as they do for food bank and advice and for other services as well. So I think it's fantastic that we've got such a forward-looking food bank in the town, and they've got the compassion, commitment and dedication to make this happen. In terms of what it would cost, I agreed with them that I think the sum of £5,000, but it would be returnable because this money is for this winter, and it will be returnable. Any money unspent will come back to us. And where we find that from, well, I think later on in the agenda, where we may be be able to allocate £3,000 coming back into our grants budget, which could be used to offset some of this. And I'm saying the remaining £2,000 should come from our reserves, because I think this is so important that we act quickly to give some comfort to those most drastically affected by this draconian cut. So that's the motion, and I hope it has support right across the room.
Is there a seconder? I'll take Councillor Price. And I had Councillor Owen waiting to speak first.
I'm going to feel quite bored at the end of this now. So I agree that the heartless decision by the new government to cut the winter fuel allowance while prices begin to rise is something that all of us do strongly feel is not the right motion. I do think it's also important for us to help if we can to those who need it most. This is where I start to disagree that we shouldn't be granting money that isn't budgeted at the start of the year based on, well, to a third party based on private informal conversations with a single councillor. And despite the group that is here this time and the aims that it hopes to achieve, it's a bad precedent to set. For all other grants, we go through applications to make sure they're submitted, making sure that decisions are made based on what they're saying that they're going to spend our money doing, and it comes back, we have to make a decision on that. Like, I understand that eligibility would be up to them, but also it's up to us as local representatives to make sure those eligibility checks are in place before just handing £5,000 to the thing. It also dismisses the possibility that other organisations may be able to provide alternative provisions with the same amount of money to bring about a better provision, or just be able to assist this provision itself with better value for residents with the money that we'd be giving them. Just to stress, the work done by the Food Bank here is undoubtedly important and excellent. I've not got anything against the Food Bank as an organisation. It's just from a process view, we need to go through the normal processes before handing money to a third-party group, as we would with any other group for any other decision that we make. So I agree with the principle of the motion, but ask that we defer the granting decision to the next meeting to allow for an application to come in, which provides the eligibility criteria, allow for other groups to come forward, and to allow the Food Bank to come up with a strategy for us to sign off on and advertise. Like, we shouldn't just be handing money out and then hoping that they do what we've asked them to do.
Thank you. I had Councillor Maguire, and then I've got Councillor Price.
And just to say, I think this is a good idea. The age group that this is targeted, are extremely vulnerable people. They should not be allowed to be left out in the cold, so to speak. And as a council, we should be, you know, this older generation has paid into their taxes for many years. We should be able to give something back. And if they really need our help, they will come to the food bank or go to the food bank, and they will be assessed. And if they are deemed to be in absolute need of help, then rightfully so they should be given that help. So who are we to say we are not going to help you in this process right now? I think it's a good idea, and I think we should all support it. I wouldn't want to see an elderly person or an elderly relative even struggling through this winter, especially as it does seem to be getting colder very quickly. So we should be supporting them and helping them where necessary.
Thank you very much. Got Councillor Price, then Councillor Upton.
Where do you start on this one? I was elected to represent people in Oswestry, and I definitely wouldn't be sleeping at night by listening to a statement that we have to do due diligence prior to helping a person who's cold, tired, ill, suffering from social isolation. It's an amazing statement, and it's an amazing government we have. But I'm not here to listen how we perform due diligence when somebody's possibly freezing to death. I asked Councillor Kerr to set up a meeting with the food bank on how they will do the provision of selection, the selection process for people who will be applying, if that could be done sooner rather than later. I am not prepared to wait for the next meeting. The urgency is there. If we go through the statistics of how people die from the cold, most sit there with blankets on, thinking that they will survive. They do not survive because the body does not generate any heat. Then there's the mental dilemma of coldness. I could speak about this for hours, but I have been banging on about social isolation in our community for many, many years. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Let's not try and overly politicise the matter. You know, let's keep it to the motion. I know that it does evoke strong feelings and emotions, but if all councillors could, you know, keep the discussion defined more to the motion under debate. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst I agree it is absolutely diabolical that we're having to discuss this in the 21st century, I would also recognise that we have rules and regulations in place for the granting of monies under these circumstances. So if we can't go down the grants and donations route, the only other alternative would be we invite people who would be suffering from these cuts to contact us directly and we issue it to them directly. Otherwise, we would have to go through the protocol.
Thank you. Have Councillor Rose and then Councillor Cassin.
I don't think it's feasible to ask people to come forward. Part of the problem with this is lots of people who are entitled to claim pension credit haven't yet claimed it. So, you know, obviously there's a process of trying to catch up with that, but lots of people are suffering from this. I 100% trust the food bank to do this properly. They have lots of systems set up already. The way that they hand out their food vouchers, they have, you know, all the different agencies that are relevant feeding into them, social services. This is where they'll get the referrals from. They're not going to be wandering around the streets just randomly asking people. They'll be accepting the referrals. They feel that they can do it. They've said that they'll hand any money back that's not used, and it'll be specifically for this purpose. We just don't have time. It's October now. Winter's set in, and ideally it would be good to open it up, but I can't think of any other agencies that could remotely do this process. They've been doing it for years. They work in this way across the country, and so I just feel it's urgent. You know, if you've got the money available, or some of this money, we know that some's coming back into the grant pot on Section 11 later. Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything wrong by trusting a wholeheartedly trustworthy organisation who do know how to do this.
Thank you. Councillor Cassin.
I agree that the food bank is highly experienced and already have reporting set up, so they'll be able to give us clear statistics of where the money has been spent. I also think if we hold on, it'll be too late. We'll lose people in our community. Also, there are supposed to be so many people that haven't claimed pensions credit, which the food bank will be helping people to do as well, I expect. But it'd be great to inform people using our social media pages that if this is affecting them, then as our social medias have such great reach.
Thank you very much. Councillor Moore.
To be honest, my point's kind of been said already now. The food bank's fantastic. I don't think there's anywhere locally that I can think of that could potentially take up a task like this better than the food bank. So I think Councillor Kerr's motion's already nail on the head for what's needed at the moment. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no one else with a burning comment, I'll move to the vote. So, sorry, Councillor Owen.
I did issue the amendment to bring it back to the next meeting.
Right, sorry.
It hasn't been
I didn't
offered,
hear
seconded.
you word it as an amendment. But is there a seconder to oh, sorry, would Councillor Kerr accept the amendment?
Can I have clarification on exactly what the amendment is?
Sorry, I have forgotten the wording that I wrote. So we defer the granting decision to the next meeting to allow for an application to be submitted to show us what it's being used for and to allow other people to develop it.
Okay, so
That's the motion. Just because I'm proposing it, I would like to point out that winter fuel allowance payments are made in November, so it's not exactly bringing it forwards. It will be the same time that they'd be receiving the November payments anyway.
Comment on that.
hang on. Well,
Sorry, that's something.
so the amendment is to defer this until the next meeting and ask the food bank to submit a formal application for funding. Councillor Kerr, do you accept the amendment?
Certainly not. And if I can summarise now as the move of the original motion, I have a right to sum up at the end of any amendment. And I'm summing up now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Then we go to the vote. I think it's an appalling idea that given the hit of...
Yeah. 1 second. You've moved an amendment. It's been rejected. But if the amendment has a seconder... Sorry, councillor, I missed that. So,
I'm summing up as the mover of the original
as the
motion.
mover of the original motion before voting on the amendment.
Absolutely. That's my right under
So
the
that's, yes.
regular standing orders.
Yeah.
Okay, as I say again, the idea to defer this, if you think about the temperatures we're already suffering, the food bank can't put in place procedures in the hope that we will grant them the money in November. So if we do meet in November, it will then take them a month or so to get the procedures into place probably and get the information out to all the agencies who make referrals to them. We've suddenly got very angst about giving grant aid to the food bank. It's not that many months ago that we gave a considerable sum of money to the food bank to help deal with the cost of living crisis that was being faced by the council. I heard no arguments then that they weren't an appropriate organisation or that we had to wait and see whether other organisations could do it or any other. We had to have a schedule of how they were going to operate. And we need to recognise all of our strengths. The advantage of using the food bank is that every penny we give them will be used directly to assist people. There's no admin cost to pay. If you want any other organisation to be set up to do this, they'll have premises costs and admin costs. They have none of this. I mean, you just need to recognise how lucky we are to have the dedication and sheer expertise of all the volunteers at the food bank and not to create obstacles where they have to jump through hoops. They are there and they are willing to help get this money to those who need it most. We can afford this money. Our reserves can take that hit. The elderly people, and I'll take what Councillor Price said, can't take that hit. And this is serious stuff. This could be the difference between hypothermia, which will be killing people this winter. It kills people every winter, so it'll be killing people this winter, come what may. So for some people, this could be the difference between life and death. And we just need to get on and do it. And I'm grateful for the councillors who have spoken in support of it. So I urge you not to accept the amendment, to reject the amendment and vote for the original motion.
Okay, so we are now voting on the amendment to defer the decision till November. All in favour of deferral? 1, 2. All against? 9, 10. Any abstentions? Don't think that leaves anyone. Okay, so the amendment has fallen, so we are back onto the original motion as tabled. I'll move to the vote on that then. All in favour of Councillor Kerr's motion? And that is unanimous. So that was all but one and one abstention. 2 abstentions. Sorry. All in favour? Let's just make sure. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Any against? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to 8D, in the motion in the name of Councillor Rose.
Sorry, as we've had some lengthy motions, I'll try and make this very quick. The council did ask Shropshire Council to instigate 20-mile-per-hour speed limits around residential areas in the town centre in Oswestry over 8 years ago the first time, and then in our last set of council we asked again. They're obviously very unlikely to do that unless they have a sort of county-wide plan, but things have changed. There are lots more councils around the country who've instigated this, including, you know, the whole of Wales. In addition to what I've put in my motion, which I won't read through again now, there are just a couple of facts that have come out in recent research. So, leading insurer, and you might have seen this in the newspapers, they've looked at Wales, and they're saying that people are like to have an average discount of £50 in future on the motor insurance due to 20% drop in claims since they introduced the 20-mile-an-hour limits. Serious road casualties have dropped by 23% in Wales since they, and that's on 20 and 30-mile-an-hour roads. 97% of people are keeping under 26 miles an hour, which is, so it shows it's successful because that's the limit which they start to actually pursue people, rather than at 20, much that you can go a bit over 30 before you're pursued. They say on average, the journeys are increased by 1 minute, and this is because we're talking about in towns, we're not talking about going, you know, cross country. So on average, your journey increases by 1 minute, but you have a 23% drop in casualties, which has knock-on effects for, you know, not needing the emergency services so much. We've got terrible problems getting ambulances here, so if they're going out to these unnecessary road accidents, that's something that's reduced as well. So they predicted that they will save them 92 million per year in preventative work. You're 5 times more likely to kill someone at 30 than 20 miles an hour. So all in all, it's much safer. There have been some, if you look at the LC WHIP plans that are together around cycling and walking as well, a lot of them are including putting in 20 mile per hour limits. I think it's much safer and for the wider area to be 20 mile per hour, because people don't get confused. If it keeps going 30, 20, you also have the additional sort of braking, speeding up, whereas the sort of wider residential area in the streets in the centre are all 20. Everyone knows what they're doing. They don't keep, you know, braking and accelerating, and it saves lots of lives.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Price, thank you. And I had Councillor Maguire waiting to speak.
I'm in support of this. I'm in support of it, but also on the fence with it. I explained myself on this one because obviously you do see a lot of people in Wales complaining about the 20 is plenty. But on the flip side of it, I support it because we live so close to the border of Wales. There's a lot of people who come over the border that are unsure what the speed limit is. I know there's signs everywhere, but you see them driving through at 20, even though it's a 30. And we're the same when we go over to Wales. We're used to driving at 30, then all of a sudden we've got to drive at 20. And sometimes you forget yourself. So perhaps because we are so close to the border, it should be supported. I also would like to say I support it because in Oswestry East, obviously we got the school, and it's a 30 mile an hour road on Cabin Lane, Harlock Road. It should be 20. There's a school that sits right opposite it, but because it isn't actually on that road, it is given that 20 mile an hour speed limit that most schools are given throughout Shropshire. So I would support it because I think it is necessary. And obviously, because, for instance, in this side of town, my mind's gone blank on the name of the school, sorry. They've now stopped you from going in that area during Woodside, thank you. Woodside, you've stopped you going in that area of the start of school and at the end of school. It's pushed the cars now into other residential streets, which is now obviously that's a 30 mile an hour. So the risks are there in that road rather than just outside that school area that was the 20 mile an hour speed limit. So it does need to be opened up, definitely, in my opinion, through more village areas where there are schools, not just on that road where that school is, because under that provision that we've now got for Woodside School, that 20 mile an hour stretch there is no longer manageable, or it's of no use because there's no traffic in that area unless you live in that area. So it should be broadened. So I do agree with it, although I teeter a little bit.
A nuanced view, Councillor Maguire. Yes. Councillor Price.
Well, there's 2 schools in Oswestry East and one college. But we do have the vast signs that can be moved around. I was just going to ask Aaron a question. You know the vast signs, two of them are portable, aren't they? One's portable. So I would love to see one actually down in College Road at the moment, because that really is exceptionally, incredibly fast. Yeah, the 20 plenty, we've been talking about this for years. And the fact is that parking now is so much of an issue, on pavement parking. So children, adults crossing between cars, and if they're crossing behind the van, you can't see them until it's too late. So yeah, I'd like to see 20 implemented on the estates in Oswestry, purely for safety.
Thank you. Well, it seems so far a little bit of a consensus on this one. So I'll move to the vote if that's okay with everyone. All in favour of Councillor Rose's motion? Yep. Any against? And any abstentions? 2 abstentions. Thank you, councillors. That one's a goer.
Write the letter.
Write the letter. Do you want me to get the typewriter? Okay. We've dealt with the motions in only 72 minutes. That's, okay. Or thereabouts. Okay. Okay. Thanks, John. All the best. Okay, item 9. We have off the flag flying policy report has returned. The suggested policy in Appendix A. Pardon? Appendix A? Pardon?
There's a,
What?
just to confuse you, we've got an A and B.
Oh, gosh, it doesn't take much to confuse me.
So the policy's at Appendix A and the letter from the government is at Appendix B?
That's it? Yes, yes. So, the Town Clerk was instructed to also write to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government asking for guidance for flying flags to be updated because of the permissions required to fly the Pride Progress flag, which is what we have been putting up the pole for the last few years. So we've had a nice reply saying that those thoughts and views will be considered when regulations relating to advertising consent are next reviewed. So that's an assurance there that it will be looked at and hopefully updated to simplify the flags that can be flown. Thank you. So the policy is in front of us. I'd like to open the debate. Councillor Coburn.
I would thank the officers for following what we directed them to do, and I think, to me, this policy is in line with what we said we wanted. It's obviously a shame we have to require planning permission, but I think we should do so, and I support the policy as stated.
Thank you. Councillor Upton.
As the person whose motion at the last meeting is the reason why we're discussing this now, I would just also like to give my thanks to the officers for putting this policy together in such a short frame of time. It covers everything that needs to be covered, and it also deals with a few questions of what happens on the death of a past or present mayor, for example. So I would support this as well, but obviously it's open to everyone else if they've got any additions to add.
Yes, your thanks should be directed to Sandra Trevor for the policy writing. So thank you, Sandra. Officers. Yeah, I'm just just clarifying. But yeah, I think it's a good policy that sums up what we're doing now and clearly states that any changes would therefore then have to come through as notices of motion. But just interesting to note the days there where the Union flag is meant to be flown by sort of statute, as it were, but we fly the Union flag more generally, don't we, on every day, and then we only replace it for the times that has been put through under motions. So that seems to be the right and proper way to do it. So, I'll propose formally that we adopt the policy, but Aaron would like to come in. Sorry.
Yeah, just for clarity, because I know we've got Chris who joined us online at the last meeting. I think just make it clear to everybody that the inclusion of the Pride Progress flag is a council's commitment to the Pride, not necessarily just the Progress flag, although you are committed to the Progress flag, if that makes it clear. So, obviously, if you weren't allowed permission to fly the Progress flag, it would then default to you will fly the Pride flag. Okay, just for clarification, I think that's what you intended. So just want to make that clear.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for adopting the policy? Councillor Moore, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak on the policy? In that case, I'll move to the vote. All in favour? Thank you. All against? And any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you very much, councillors. So that now becomes the policy of the council. Item 10, Oswestry Community Games. We have an Appendix C report from James Manford. It was an absolutely brilliant event again this year. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and all the embarrassing sort of sporting activities that I was coerced into taking part in. But we have the request again to use the Kyglass Park again next year, as usual, and for the £1,000 grant to be made. But can I just ask the clerk, would you like to reiterate your suggestion that you made to me the other day about the grants that they request every year?
Yeah, so you generally support this every year, and it generally comes out of the grants and donations budget, but it's just a suggestion, and it would have to come out next year's grants and donations budget, which makes it difficult for you to spend, given it's next year and next council. Just suggesting that you include a separate line in the budget for this event, just as you do the Oswestry 10K, and so it's approved at budget level as opposed to them having to ask for it every year. But that's just something I suggested to the Mayor.
Just out there for discussion, but I thought it was worth mentioning as this item was on the agenda. So, Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think that's a sensible suggestion. It is an event that we've had now for several years. I think it is, increasingly successful every year. I don't think there's a councillor in the building who'd say that we wouldn't want to see it continue. So yeah, with that in mind, I say we take the clerk's suggestion and I put that forward and propose that that's exactly what we do.
Thank you very much. Yep, I'm happy to second that. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, so if we can note the report and agree that the £1,000 grant becomes a line in the budget from now on to avoid having to apply for grants and agree it every year.
You'll obviously have to agree at the budget.
Okay. But agree it at the budget, yeah.
But
yeah. Go through the usual budgeting process. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay, all in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. Item 11, support to those fleeing the war in Ukraine. We have a report there, and it's basically that the Ukrainian Refugee Support Hub Committee, that obviously we've been supporting now for a couple of years, have elected to return £3,000 of the donation given to them because it's unspent. So it is more to note, but I think, thanks to them and thanks to the work that's going on, it means that our Ukrainian guests are becoming increasingly settled in the area and making a life for however long necessary. Councillor Davis, I think you had your hand up first.
Yeah, just very quickly, I think this is remarkable what they've done. I've not known of any committee group or anybody else in all my time since I've been on councils that's handed up money back because they've not used it. So I think this is remarkable. And I guess it just shows these sort of people what they go through, and they're glad of it, all the support when they need it, and then they're willing to give back when they don't, and I think it's excellent. I don't know whether the clerk could just write a little note or something just to thank them for what's happened.
Yeah, yeah, Clerk's happy to do that. I've got Councillor Maguire and then Councillor Coburn.
I just want to reiterate what Councillor Davis has just said. I feel quite proud as a councillor to know that we've supported these refugees coming into the country that are in war-stricken, I can't even speak now, circumstances. I don't know how I would be, how I'd behave if I was in their situation, but the thought that they've now built their lives here, some of them are obviously working, it says here now, then that's why this money is no longer needed. And it is great to see what isn't used come back to us, where we could use it, as we spoke about in a previous motion. It could possibly be used to, again, be proud to help somebody that is in absolute need for it. So yeah, you know, I'm just pleased that we were able to help those people that have called upon us for our help.
Thank you. Councillor Coburn.
Yes, I was just going to second the point that we should be really grateful to the volunteers of the Refugee Support Hub. I know there were some of them in the building, but in the room, but all the volunteers there have done an amazing job to create a really supportive environment for Ukrainian guests, and had to deal with some really tricky issues. And yeah, I think I second the idea that a note of thanks to them is the appropriate thing.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Rose.
Yes, I just wanted to explain that when Council originally gave a grant, we were giving £100 to each person who moved into the town of Oswestry, and the officers were having to deal with that. So part of the reason that the council decided to give the grant over to the hub was that the hub then dealt with all of that instead of it having to come back each time and them having to track down and all this kind of thing. So they are really sorted. They're all really grateful. They've this August they had an open community event at the Memorial Hall where they wanted to invite everyone in, and they did all the refreshments and they showed their crafts and that kind of thing. And lots of them are now, you know, volunteering in all sorts of different places. So it has been a really good success, and they have felt very welcome by people of Oswestry. So it's been a great thing that they've been able to do that. But there is enough funding now because we're gradually shrinking down what we're doing to continue for quite some time.
Yeah, and it's amazing the contribution that they're making to the town, just as other communities have done for much longer, obviously. But yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely echo Councillor Coburn's thanks to all the members who have worked for so long, especially Councillor Rose. I know you've been there from the start, so yeah, thank you very much, and please pass on that to the other volunteers. So let's just, yeah, Council will raise an invoice for the value which will be deposited into the grants and donations budget, basically recycling, isn't it? So if we could just note that, all in favour? Thank you very much. And item 12 is the Oswestry Market mural, to consider a request from Oswestry Borderland Tourism. Yeah, it's just to be able to use that image now to promote Oswestry on merchandise, etc., with all the correct copyrights in place. And it just, as we hold the copyright, we have to agree it. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that this might be more of an issue kind of coming from my experience being a professional musician and artist. That is sort of where my career helps sort of give me a little bit of an insight into this. I do think that this is something we need to be quite careful of as a council. I think that the idea of taking the artwork that's been used, I know in the contract it does say that we own that artwork now, and that was signed over. But we didn't say that we were going to be looking at selling it on tea towels and mugs and postcards and all that kind of thing. And I think that's a fantastic idea and is something that we should definitely be doing. And I think it's great for the tourism and everything. It's not fantastic for the artists. I do think that, you know, artists should always retain a royalty, and I think there's something that we should be we should plant our feet on this a little bit, because this sets a bit of a precedent for all future artists as well. And if we're going to be supporting artists and art in the town, that doesn't mean just saying, oh yes, we support you. It means actively showing it. And that, I mean, at the moment, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but royalties range somewhere between 8 and 20%, something like that. I think that I'd like to propose that we enter into a conversation with council, Board of Land Tourism, and with the artists to agree on a royalty that'll be split between everybody, because the artists should be paid for their work. And I think it's really important as a council that we show that we are behind the arts and not just going to take advantage and start selling their wares without them benefiting from it. So yeah, it's something I'm quite passionate about.
Thank you. Just before I bring in the other councillors, I would just like to bring the clerk in, because I think the suggestion that the artists would have not been paid for their work needs to be...
No.
So just, I have spoken to the artists. They're generally happy. There's some criteria, but obviously Councillor Moore's raised another issue, which is the royalty to the council as well. So this wasn't discussed with the artists at all. So they're happy. They've set some stipulations. Because obviously this was going in the public domain, I needed to make sure that they were generally comfortable with it. But obviously there are other issues to be discussed. So yeah, they're happy. Is what I'm saying.
Sorry, I'll just give right of reply to councillor.
Yeah, no, just please let me clarify that. The artists were paid for their work. They're absolutely happy. I'm not in any means suggesting that they're not. I'm suggesting that we are changing what we're going to be doing with that art, and it is the right and fair thing to be working with those artists going forward, and with all artists that this council works with going forward, to make sure that everybody's being paid a respectful amount for the contributions that they make.
Thank you. I had Councillor Upton, then Councillor Coburn, then I'll come to Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Moore has very kindly said what I was going to suggest.
Oh, right. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Coburn?
yeah, I was going to be saying something along the same lines. I mean, obviously, the priority is that the artists are happy with how we're using their work. If they prefer to have the credit for it rather than the royalty and get the publicity, I don't want to be prescriptive about saying how it should be done. So I think the suggestion that anything we do is done in discussion with the artists is one that I would support.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire, and then I'll come back to...
Just obviously, I was on... anyone else in this room that was on the panel, please refresh my memory. But I think this was one of the reasons, one of the discussions that we had during some of the presentations that we had for the possible murals. And when we did decide on a mural, and please, if I'm wrong, any councillor correct me, but I think one of the reasons we did put this stipulation on the piece was because of the possible implications later on down the lines with people coming forward and using it for making money purposes, like in this case. So I think Councillor Moore is correct in what he says. I think it should be a discussion that's between both the Borderlands, the artist and the council. And this was the whole reason we did like a copyright thing on it in the first place, is to try and not to cause any troubles later on down the line. And like I said, if there's any other councillors in this room, if I'm wrong on that, please pull me up.
I probably need to come in at this point just to say that I have spoken to the artists, and you know, we've got an agreement in place with them. Everything's signed. Everybody's happy. It's just a question Councillor Moore's raising, is raising whether they should receive a percentage of the sales that OBT make. I think that's the point. I think any discussion about the artists, whether they're happy is...
If they're happy, they're happy.
Yeah. But obviously Councillor Moore's raised an issue which is outside the agreement and hasn't been discussed with anybody. So it's
I don't know what to do with that then, because we're sort of yeah, sorry, Councillor Kerr.
I don't disagree with the sentiments, but the practicalities of OBT trying to trace how many tea towels they've sold and what their net profit is per tea towel, because it's presumably of the profit, not the sale price, I assume, because if it's of the sale price, they may not be able to do it. You know, it's Land in OBT, who are quite a small organisation with a huge admin headache to do that, it would seem to me. I mean, fortunately, the artists' names and taglines or the email address is on the actual artwork. So as the artwork is exhibited on tea towels, their names are exhibited on tea towels. So it's no doubt that anybody procuring this will see who the artists are, and that may help them in their development in the future. So I suppose also say these are the terms under which everybody competed, and they, you know, gave their prices accordingly. If we now change those terms for the one that we chose, then other people who entered into that competition could say, well, if I'd known I was going to equally receive some royalties, then I would have charged you a different amount up front. We said to everybody, we are having a copyright. Agreed, we need to talk to them about it, but I think we're changing the terms now, having appointed the contract, and if I was one of the other contractors, I could feel a bit aggrieved about that, because I hadn't got the chance to adjust my tender price to take account of the fact that I'd be receiving money from royalties. So I suggest we just proceed as is, so long as it's been endorsed with the agreement of the artist, as it seems to be.
Okay. Councillor Moore, did you have a formal proposal?
My formal proposal stands. There's a saying between us artists, Councillor Kerr, that if you can find me a gas company who'll heat my house for me for exposure, then please send them my way. But the rest of us have to use money. You can't just, this whole like, just you got your names are on it, so that's good enough. Is something that it's spitting in the face of that exact terminology. There is spitting in the face of every artist. It's the worst possible thing you could say. So you're not worth being paid, but I will tell people that you did it. So I absolutely disagree with it. It's not the right way forward. So, you know, the artists, we've changed what we're doing. We're now going to be selling, you know, tea towels, whatever it is that they're doing. I don't think that it's a ridiculous thing to undertake. I don't think it's going to be a lot of admin. Buy 100 tea towels. I've sold 90 of them. There's 10 left. I can count to 10. I think that OBT probably can. You know, we can work out quite simply, you know, between that, this is what the royalties are agreed. It's a very, very simple situation. We just need to agree a percentage with the artist. And I think it's not just about what's agreed with these artists. I think this sets a precedent then going forward that every artist that does anything with Oswestry Town Council knows that they're going to be getting a fair, going to be treated well and treated fairly and not taken advantage of.
What you're saying implies that they're not being treated fairly and that it's being done without their agreement, but it's being done with their agreement.
It's not.
And it's under the terms that they agreed to with the original contract. I'm sorry, I just don't see what you're objecting to when everyone has agreed this already before it's come to this meeting.
Yeah,
but sorry, I've got Councillor Rose coming in.
I was only very briefly going to say, I mean, I've got sympathy with what you're saying, Councillor Moore, but we made an agreement that we would have the copyright. We could have made an agreement that the artists get the copyright. We could have set it up that way, or they could have insisted they keep the copyright. Quite usually people do keep the copyright of their own work, but in these circumstances, we have the copyright, so we would get the royalties. It's just, that's why, you know, we wanted the copyright so that we could decide where it was used and where it wasn't used to sort of protect it. So it might be worth talking to them more, but as we've got the copyright in a way, was there anything in the original contract which said that we might then use it for our websites, promotion? What's in the actual original agreement? Does it say? I thought it said some kind of thing.
So it says that the artist agrees that the council can use the design on marketing and or promotional materials. So,
So, Councillor Moore, sorry, I was going to come to you just to clarify your proposal, but can I bring Councillor Owen in first? Councillor Owen.
Can I, that wording does stipulate that the council would put it on merchandise. We're asking for Oswestry Borderland Tourism to do it. So that is a difference between the contract and what we're suggesting here.
But we do have the agreement of the artists. But Councillor Moore, what is your proposal so that we can vote on it?
we don't have the agreement of the artists, 'cause I've spoken to the artists about it. So I'm bringing their views on this forward as well. This isn't just me picking it out of thin air. So we have an agreement at the moment that, again, saying about copyright, again, difference between copywriting and trademarking, and generally copywriting won't be held by an artist. It's not really something that can be done. If we're going to be, basically, we're outsourcing it to a third party. We're bringing in a third party system now. So we own, if you want, we own the design. We've taken that from the artist. They've agreed that they're happy with that. Now we've said what we're going to do actually is we're going to license that to a third party over here, and we're going to start profiting from it. And what we're going to do as a council is we're going to cut you out of that and keep all of that money for ourselves. And I think that that's not the right way to go about doing it, when we could be making some money out of it, the artists could be making some money out of it, and Oswestry Borderland Tourism could be making some money. All I'm saying is that the fairest way forward is to bring everybody in under this. We're going to start making money out of it. Let everybody make some money out of it rather than cutting the artists out. I don't think that the artists are happy with having their artwork sold through a third party, because I asked them about it.
That places me in a difficult position because I've got correspondence with the artist. So notwithstanding that, for clarification, we're not asking. Oswestry Borderland Tourism are asking. So you can either grant the copyright or not. And I think that's, and if you want some additional stipulations, you can add some additional stipulations if you so request. But I think that's where we're at in terms of the discussion. I'm happy to show the Mayor the correspondence I've received from the artist if that's point's been disputed.
I'm just wondering whether it would be worth deferring this pending, say, a meeting between the parties. Just to clarify exactly what everyone's position is. Is that okay? It's from our point, this isn't something that we're pushing.
No.
As officers.
And I'm not doubting anyone's, anything that anyone has said in this room. That I'm not doubting anything at all. But the fact that there's this disagreement, I think, I just think we need to, get it sorted, clear the waters before we proceed in any direction.
Yeah, that's entirely up your gift how you want to proceed.
Can I go to Councillor Kerr? Sorry, I did have a list. Councillor Upton.
I move we defer.
Councillor Coburn. Councillor Kerr.
Clarification, really. We are not proposing to receive any money for this from Oswestry Board of Tourism, so there is no profiteering by the council
not
on this at all. Just be clear about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just going to be Borderland Tourism selling, souvenir products. Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded that we defer pending a meeting of the parties.
Point of order. I've got a motion on the table. It's been seconded, but yeah, I haven't agreed to defer.
Okay, so could you concisely give your proposal? Because when I asked you to make your proposal, it went very long again. Okay, so can I have a simple proposal?
I propose that we pay the artist whatever the kind of going rate is, whatever that between 8 and 20%.
We can't pay them anything.
No, that's what to release the copyright to Oswestry Borderland Tourism, for them to use it, to release that copyright, we want the artist to be able to be paid as well. That's pretty concise and simple, I think.
But to be paid what, and by what mechanism?
Well, that's for them to discuss, isn't it? But whatever the percentage is at the moment, there is a national average percentage. It's different for artists than what it is in the music business, so I don't know. If I was negotiating with you now, I'd tell you I want 20% right now, otherwise I wouldn't want to go any further. That might be different for them, and it's not my place to negotiate for them. What I want to do is give them an opportunity to negotiate a fair rate for themselves, with Oswestry Borderland Tourism, so Borderland Tourism can make some money and they can as well. I don't think it's right that we use a copyright that we own for a third and to sell to a third party for them to start profiteering without bringing the artist in.
We're not selling anything.
Well,
But
we're handing
your
it- handing it
stipulation is
over.
that we, in order for Oswestry Borderland Tourism to use the image under licence, they negotiate with the artists
On
to
a percentage.
pay a percentage of the profits, call them royalties,
Yeah.
to the artist for use of their work.
As is pretty standard, yeah.
And who is seconding that proposal? Councillor Owen. Okay.
Just think about I understand it. I just think about the workability. So bear with me. Just in terms of the decision. So let's just talk it back.
Can you have a bit out again? Because I'm a bit confused.
For, in order for Oswestry Borderland Tourism to use the image of the market mural on products that they wish to sell, that they must negotiate with the artists in order to agree a percentage of profits to be paid to the artists for use of their work. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay. Yeah,
are you, yeah, Councillor Coburn.
Yeah. I think I support what you want to happen. My concern is about putting in place a mechanism that forces. So in the case where Oswestry Borderland Tourism say, if we have to pay a percentage, we're not going to go ahead, and the artist would prefer that we go ahead without a percentage. I don't know what their position is. I think we should defer it so that we know exactly what their position is, and then we can work out how best to fulfill their position, rather than by us saying it has to be this particular mechanism. And that's why I seconded the motion to defer, so that we can find exactly the best mechanism to suit all parties.
Okay, I'm going to take Councillor Owen and then we'll vote on this proposal.
Just as the seconder, from what I understand, the negotiation would include the reason that you're asking them to then come to, like you're going to be asking that question as part of the negotiation anyway, and therefore deferring it, it's sort of it's doing the same thing. It's just not also giving a goal at the end of it. So I feel like the negotiation that would happen through voting for the motion is effectively the same as deferring the motion, like at the end of the day.
I think I see.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to. It's either one way or another, isn't it? Because you can't. If it's an agreement between the two parties, then you can't. And because we're not involved, then we can't. It's a matter for them to resolve and not for us, is what you're saying. So we can't really defer the decision because.
And so,
Yeah.
if Councillor Moore's proposal goes ahead, then if the agreement is a 0%,
Yeah.
if the artists are happy that it goes ahead rather than not, if Borderland Tourism don't feel that they want to enter into that sort of deal and the artists are still happy for them to go ahead, then we are out of that discussion because it's nothing to do with us. We've granted permission with the stipulation and then they agree between the two of them. Everyone clear on that proposal then? All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any against? And any abstentions? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the proposal, that we go to Oswestry Borderland Tourism and say it's fine to use it, but you have to discuss, you have to negotiate with the artists on.
I think it's fair to say we feel that the view of the council is that there should be a contribution from OBT to the artist for use of their artwork, and it's up to the pair of you to negotiate a agreed price.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yes, that is the will of the council.
He said, I think we agreed there should be a negotiation, not that we agreed there should be a contribution. So we haven't said there must
No,
be a
yeah.
contribution, but we have said there must be a negotiation.
Yes,
But you
stipulate
said
that there is
must
a
be
negotiation.
Which I don't
could
think
be
is
nothing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not a contribution, is it? It's a discussion. Well, I'm just
No,
trying
no,
to
no, no,
clarify
no.
what
Councillor
we
Kerr,
have
you are
voted
right,
on.
yes. Yeah, that is
Thank
the...
you. I was wrong in my summary, so apologies, everybody.
Okay. Item 13 is the NABMA conference. I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, thank you. It was a great conference. Just to say, it is important to recognise the amount of the work that goes into this, and colleague, you know, it's a professional event. It's with national profile, and it's organised by Oswestry Town Council, and I'm one of our colleagues. So it is important just to make a note of that and to note the thanks that we've had.
Okay. Move we note. All in favour? Thank you. Right. Item 14, Shropshire Council correspondence and matters. Item 14A is the interim polling district, polling place and polling station review.
So I think essentially it says that they can no longer use the chapel. Is it Horeb on Park Avenue? And to have some suggestions. They have actually found one, been the cricket club, been an accessible location. Councillors got any comments? I think, please. I think I must have put a faulty battery in mine. Yeah, please let me know if you've got any other suggestions to put forward, but the cricket club seems a sensible solution.
Okay, I've got Councillor Kerr.
Just a bit of context. There had basically following the last election concerning the Holland Church, what people could call to vote. So they asked me whether there was any alternative location. It's just this cricket club is disabled, accessible. It seems like a suitable venue. So it won't come in. It won't come in from May. The May elections will be held at Holland, but they're looking at it for the future from there.
How close it is. Sorry, we have a battery, a low battery warning, but
Is that on the computer?
it's on the laptop. Okay, so we're asked for any comments to be submitted by the 20th of October.
We support that change because I think it's a more accessible venue and might be more suitable for people to get to and park at.
Okay, so Councillor Owen?
I do, just to stipulate, it would also move the polling station away from a more central location to the other edge of the ward. So even though I do agree it's a more accessible location, if you can't drive to it, you're then having to find some other mode of transport to get from the Victoria Street area, Victoria Fields area of that district, all the way around to the cricket club. So I do agree it's a matter of, it's helping accessibility for some, but not others, looking for a more town central location slightly further in rather than the edge might be worth considering.
Councillor Rose?
Could the Memorial Hall not take both? Because at the moment the Memorial Hall does Harvick and then Memorial Hall not do the whole lot, potentially.
Rather than me trying to do the job for the elections team, if there are any other suggestions, you're going to let me have them. I'll pass them on to the elections team, and then they can consider them. That I think would be the best way forward.
Councillor Upton?
If we're taking suggestions now, might I suggest somewhere like either the Marcher School or Trinity Church? Would it been closer?
Yeah. So yeah, I think if you pass on any suggestions to the clerk, so that he can forward those on, that'd be great. Councillor Owen?
So I do know they say specifically over this electoral ward that they're looking at. It's a matter of they have moved the Carrig Lwyd one from a central location right to the other edge, which does have accessibility issues to people at the south of Carrig Lwyd ward. So people around the Oak Street area now have to go all the way up College Road to vote. So if they are looking at other locations during a review, it might be worth seeing whether there's other locations either splitting the electoral ward or offering another alternative situation more centrally to the Carrig Lwyd ward as well.
I don't know why they can't set up, you know, in car parks and things, sort of temporary gazebos and things. They can be quite substantial, can't they? But anyway, legally can't. There you go. Sorry, Councillor Maguire.
Just to come back on, obviously some people may find it difficult, blah, 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 as has been pointed out in the room. That's why we have postal votes. So those that can't or are unable to access polling stations, they can vote by post. So that would counter that argument out. So that they would not be able to vote because they can't access it, because they've got another opportunity to vote by post.
Yeah, valid point. But yeah, I think if members could just forward their suggestions by email, and I just propose that we note the review. All in favour? Thank you. 14B, proposed extinguishment of a footpath 4 under the provision of the Highways Act 1980. As per the map, a little bit of a footpath that goes right through someone's front room by the looks of things. Do we have any comments to make? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, it's a very sensible suggestion, and I won't go against it. But I don't like to see these footpaths being done away with or diverted. I mean, there's a lot of history with footpaths around the place, and they're there for reasons. I accept this one, you know, but there again, you've got to look at when was 32 built, and why was it built on a footpath? So it's gone wrong in the past, is it? Not for us to put it right now, but yes, it makes sense to go with this item, fully vote it. But I just think more care should be taken with footpaths.
I thought you were going to suggest that they knock down the house.
Well,
reinstate it.
If it went somewhere,
legal
I would.
right of way. Okay, so all in favour that we support, or at least don't object. Thank you. 14C, Shropshire Council Finances, Oswestry Area Meeting, to note Appendix G, letter sent to Councillor Leslie Picton by Councillor Peter Richardson, Chair of Oswestry Rural Parish Council, following an Oswestry parish-wide meeting. Hope you've all had a chance to read through that letter. It's referring to what Shropshire Council actually wants parish councils to take on. Is it services, or are they just asking us to increase our precept and pass money over, which would have implications in terms of possible implications in terms of capping, etc. But I think it's to note, isn't it, mainly? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't to note, because the suggestion of the request to raise your precept by X percent, I needed to understand your policy position on that, because I'm in discussions with Shropshire Council and are asked the question. So, however, it does seem to be redundant based on the correspondence that I sent out earlier today, which highlights that essentially Shropshire Council are no longer discussing matters with local councils. What that leaves, that's the impression I've got. I have asked for clarification, and that's because I have been in discussion with the street scene manager about issues that this council has raised, and with the estates manager about property in the town as well. So I don't know the status of those discussions. So it is for noting at this point it wasn't. I think during the budget seminar, I think we need to have a little bit of a discussion about this again, and I'll keep you posted. But it does seem to be a rather confused letter, which hasn't got an officer's name attached to it, which is rather unusual.
So there we go. I'll move. No, sorry. Yep, seconded. All in favour? Thank you. 14D. Sorry, Councillor.
I move we suspend standing orders to allow us to complete our meeting after 9 o'clock.
You don't think we'll be done in 8 minutes? Oh, ye of little faith. Yeah, no, okay, it has been so moved. I'll second. All in favour? Thank you. 14D, draft partnership agreement between Shropshire Council, with Shropshire Council, on the matter of Llywyd Mansion. Quite an exciting development, and a very important one in the process towards renovating the building and bringing it back into public use. Are there any comments, questions? Councillor Coburn.
It looks very sensible. We definitely want to be using Shropshire Council's expertise, and I support it.
Thank you. Yeah, we need to appoint, what's it called? A project steering group.
No,
Sorry.
Yeah, I
No?
should have, Mr. Mayor, I should have helped you on this item. I do apologise. So it's a significant project. There's quite a lot of governance around it, especially if we're successful with the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Potentially talk about £3 million worth of money coming through our books. So it's serious business here. There'll be a project steering group, and I'm asking council to appoint a member to this group, please. Similar as you did with the High Street Heritage Action Zone Programme Board, you need to have oversight of this and be seen to be leading it.
Yeah, so quite an important role, clearly. Are there any volunteers? Councillor Moore?
Any idea on time frame of meetings or anything like that? Daytime, evening, etc.
So it's going to involve consultants, officers. I would imagine it's going to be daytime stuff. I don't know. It's also wholly dependent on whether or not we get the next round of funding. So there's quite a few hoops to go through. But yeah, I'd imagine it's daytime stuff.
Okay, so that does limit the possibilities for some. Councillor Rose? Okay. Everyone else take a step backwards. You've been seconded, Councillor Rose. Any further nominations? No, all in favour of Councillor Rose. Thank you. Thanks, Ollie. Okay, item 15, Shropshire Good Food Partnership, to consider Appendix I. We have a letter about what sounds to be a really good pilot project coming to Oswestry, a 3-year scheme to encourage healthy eating amongst young people in Oswestry, identifying opportunities to build on the resources that we already have, making it easier for young people to eat healthy food and build a culture where healthy food is the norm. So, Councillor Maguire.
I think it's a good idea. It's just a shame that sometimes it's more expensive to eat healthy. If you go to a shop to buy your weekly shop, it's quite expensive to eat healthy. So if there's ways that people can be shown to cook healthier, cheaper, then I would fully support this.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
I think we don't know the parameters of it, but I think we're only being asked to offer support that we'll be part of the pilot. They're a very good organisation. Katie Anderson is amazingly dynamic and set up all sorts of very good projects. So I think that it would be great to have them working in Oswestry.
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, we would be providing some meeting room space, participation of a council rep at foundational meetings, key decision points and reviews, approximately 4 meetings per year, but possibly more frequently at the start, to guide the project and make sure that it's linked to what is already happening. So I think it's something that the council does very well. Would that need to be a member's involvement, or can that be officer involvement?
I suppose at this stage, I don't know. If you're willing to support it, let's support it and work out the detail at a later date. I think what I would just add is you've got this, you've got Deep Pave, you've got HLF, you've got HAS programmes that you've had. I think it's just credit to councillors for your approach to partnership working. I don't think there's many councils across the country who have that sort of level of engagement with partners and working with the food bank as well. So, well done to you.
Well, thank you for that. So, all in favour of supporting this project as it goes forward? Thank you. Any against? No, that's everyone. Thank you. Item 16, the SALC Annual General Meeting. We've got an invitation inviting the Town Clerk and members of the Council to attend on the 30th of October at 4 p.m. in the Council Chamber, Shire Hall, Shrewsbury. Any volunteers? Or we can note it and decide at a later date who's available. So perhaps if the clerk could email out and anyone wanting to go.
From tonight's meeting, if members want to let me know, rather than me send an email.
Okay. All in favour of that? Thank you very much. 17, reports from the Town Clerk. So we have the council projects.
How much do you want? There's a lot in there. Progress against all of them. Pleased to say, I think the LED street lights should be orange, and we'll explain why that's the case. Waiting to bring back a report to you on the Regal project. Progress with the centre is good. You've had considered grants to breathing new life into empty property. So yeah, all positive. Happy to answer any questions. Clearly, I'd like to turn a few more of these green. And there's still a lot to do. There's still a lot of frustrations there, but I think it's quite a lengthy list.
Thank you. Does anyone have comments or questions?
I move we note and thank the officers for the incredible amount of work they're doing on these projects and keeping them all on board.
Thank you very much. I'll second that. All in favour? Thank you. 17B, we have a little report on complaints to council. Obviously, part of everyday life, things are not always going to go as well as we'd hope, but there's just a little summary there and a bit of background and, importantly, the actions that were taken to resolve. But I'll bring the clerk in.
Yeah, I think it's just important. Again, thanks Sandra. Sandra's pulled together this report. She manages the complaints process, so that underpins everything. There's a process in place. All I'm bringing this to your attention is to reassure you, we do record them. They don't just go into the recycling. We do record them. We do take action, and I think it highlights the sort of level of the complaints that we get. How good a service that you provide.
Thank you. Councillor Upton.
I'd like to move that we note this report. We give thanks to Sandra for putting this report together and give our thanks to all those responsible for bringing restitution to the complaints made. Anything we can resolve, the better.
Thank you very much. Councillor Owen, yep. Second that. All in favour? Thank you very much. Item 18, report from the Finance Officer to adopt. Are there any questions, clarifications, corrections, comments?
Just to note, it does include a rather large payment to the company Restoring the Cross. So that is that we are claiming that back, but obviously as an outlay to start with. So yeah, Henry, that's coming shortly, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you. All in favour of adopting then? Thank you very much. Item 19 is our Operations Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the report is electrical wiring. Just to inform members that a EICR, so electrical installation condition report, was carried out, which is done every 5 years. And it's been identified the condition of the electrical wiring within the market hall is at the recommended age to be replaced, which is around 25 to 30 years. It has been reported by the electrician that carried out the inspection that the condition of the wiring is not at a point which requires immediate replacement. However, the age of the wiring is at a point where a programme for replacement would need to be pursued. So we are currently obtaining quotes to get an understanding of how much that would cost.
Thank you very much.
Should we go?
Any questions or comments for the Operations Manager? No? Thank you very much for that report then. And sorry, are there?
There's 4 points.
Yeah.
Shall I keep going?
Keep going.
Okay, recommendations. To approve the following. Rewiring of Powys Market Hall, relining of Smithfield Street car park and free weekend parking during December.
So
Am I on
Henry,
the right thing?
Yeah, no, Henry just gave you the first item. He's
There's
taken
5.
item by item. Is that okay?
I'm sorry.
No,
What an idiot. Where am I then?
don't worry. You're not. Don't.
Well, I'm saying it before somebody else does.
Don't worry. So the next item is
Yes, sorry about that, Henry.
Streetlight procurement.
I thought that was right.
It's the Commonwealth Memorial Graves is the next item on the report. Just to make members aware that we've been contacted by the regional manager for the Commonwealth Memorial Graves Commission, and they've informed the council that following a operational review, they've decided to cancel the plot maintenance contract that they have with the council. As per the terms of that contract, they did provide 1 month's notice, with the final date being the 4th of October. The Commonwealth Memorial Graves Commission were paying the council just shy of £2,000 a year to carry out the maintenance, so that income is now no longer there.
Okay. Yeah, any, oh, sorry, Councillor Coburn.
Could I just clarify, so are they going to maintain it themselves now? Okay, fine.
Thank you. Okay, street lights.
Streetlight procurement. So we're in the final stages of putting together the tender documents for commencing the procurement process to companies to bid for the council street lighting contract, which will include regular repair and maintenance. The application for tender will commence in a few weeks, and with council considering the appointments. It says December in my report. I apologise for the time frame. It's actually going to be January that's going to come to council for appointment.
And that's because we want to run it past the tender working group. It's taken quite a lot to pull together a specification which makes it clear to the tenderers, and also makes the decision fairly straightforward for you guys as well. Interesting, there aren't any standard streetlight contracts out there, which is bizarre. So yeah, we'll run it past. We need to run it past the tender group. We've got a final few bits and pieces to sort out in terms of permissions and qualifications and what have you. So yeah, we'll hopefully come back with a recommendation in January.
Excellent, something to look forward to. Smithfield Street car park.
Yeah.
Parking bay lights.
The parking bay lines with the Smithfield Street car park are becoming more absent, with drivers finding it difficult to park within them, especially if they're leaves in the car park. We have our parking enforcement officers issuing out charge notices because the parking over 2 bays. The appeal comes in, I couldn't see the lines. The lines were very clear. So we have obtained a quote for 1,100 plus VAT to carry out the remarking of the entire car park at Smithfield Street. To keep the costs down and to keep minimum disruption to a minimum, they're advised to close the car park for 1 day, allowing them to carry out the works without disruption and in one hit.
Okay, Councillor Maguire.
Obviously, you're looking at I'm just chucking something out here now. Obviously, you're looking at relining the whole car park. A lot of car parking spaces these days are not sufficient sizes for some cars of today. Would it be a huge loss to the council if we made them slightly bigger, which would obviously mean 1 or 2 car parking spaces less overall? Because when you're trying to get in and out of cars, you've got about this much room between each cars. These days, it's very sufficient with the size of cars. Is that something the council could perhaps look at? Would it be a huge cost implication to the council? That's obviously got to be looked at as well.
Perhaps you could do one end for fat cars, the middle for medium cars.
Bigger cars, yeah.
You'd have to take all the lines away.
We can obviously look at that if council want to go down that route. We'd obviously have to come back to you with a additional report and tell you what the implications are. Just being tender, you'd have to burn off all the lines and then reline it. So there is some additional cost, but obviously if that's what you want to go down the route, what I'd say Smithfield in the middle section there by Max, you know, the middle section there, they're quite large spaces. I'd suggest some of them are tight. You know, down there, I'll admit to that.
I'm just raising it to see if other councils.
But if you want to do it, we can do it.
Councillor Kerr.
The Maternity Residents Association last week, and they are concerned about, it's just in a minute that we did say we would consider the layout of Central Car Park going forward. I think it's an issue perhaps for a future council, but it could pick up this issue amongst picking up other issues as whether it's more desirable to have a one-way flow round that car park, which might give you an opportunity to have some pedestrian walkways across the car park.
On Smithfield Street, we're talking about the
Yeah,
Smithfield
well,
Street
sorry,
car
I was
park.
talking about Smithfield and Central Car Park,
Okay.
but the two of them sort of coupled together in that regard. So I think it's an issue perhaps the next council consider.
Okay, happy just to note then this time? Thank you.
So by noting as we're cracking on with the work.
Yes, yeah. Sneaking that in.
And the final one is December weekend parking. It's not even Halloween yet, and we're talking about Christmas. So in previous years, council have decided to offer free parking to those that park in Oswestry Street on the weekends running up to Christmas. The officers are asking whether you want to do that again this year. The dates are noted within the report of Saturday the 7th, Sunday the 8th, Saturdays 14th and 15th, and the 21st and 22nd of December.
Okay, Councillor Maguire, Councillor Moore, Councillor Coburn.
I just want to say I support this every time because I think by the council supporting this, we are also supporting our independent shops within the town centre, hoping in the hope that by making the car parking free over that period, more people will come and shop and spend money in our local shops. Obviously, the more money spent in the town centre, the better it is for us. You know, the shop owners to see more tourists coming to Oswald Street, so obviously that will have hopefully a positive impact on local eateries and so on and so forth. So I see it as a big benefit to the Oswald Street Town Centre by supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
I was just going to suggest we forgo the soundbite opportunity and move straight to the vote, because it's the same things we say every year. I think it's good. Let's vote. Done. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Coburn? Right, okay, so it's proposed then that we accept, well, there's, approve the following. So we have 3 items here. Rewiring of the Powys Market Hall, relining of Smithfield Street car park, and the free weekend parking during December. Who would like to propose? Councillor Maguire?
Proposal with support for all 3 projects.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Upton. All in favour? Any against? And any abstentions?
Can you just clarify that, Chair?
Sure.
We're not voting to rewire the market, are we?
No.
It's the...
Quotes.
We've
the part
agreed on
that's
the
in-
car park line in. This one is on the last item, isn't it? On the free parking on the weekend.
There's three things to approve, but the rewiring of the Powys Market Hall, that is just a heading that means that the officers are in process of obtaining quotes, which they're then going to bring back to council so that we can then make a firm decision on what to do and how to proceed. Yeah, it's not to actually... Yeah, sorry. But yes. Okay. That means that we've made it to item 20, the exclusion of the public and press. Councillor Upton.
We exclude.
I'll second. All in favour? Thank you very much.
So we're just stopping the recording.